I was invited here to share a little bit about youth participation in terms of Western Balkan region, and so kind of connecting both theory and practice and kind of reality of the region. And to start us off with that, I will not start with presentation immediately, but ask you to help me with a little Menti pool in a way, where I would ask you to say, without being influenced by Costa's exercise this morning, but to say and share your keywords or associations that you have when the youth participation is mentioned, but from your context and your experience. Okay, it doesn't need to be, all colorful and sexy and happy, but also it doesn't need to be all gray and dark and nothing is happening. So just from your experience, what's your association? This should be like one or two keywords, and you can have 5 most. I have put in the chat the link, so please use it, and then we'll see what kind of word cloud of words we can get there. So your associations to youth participation from your experience and context in which you are working. Okay, now it's visible, huh? So as you can see, we can all see and maybe comment a little bit if you want. The democracy, activism, and change are keywords, it seems, and shared between you, in a sense that more of you have put them there. I like how slow is above democracy. This is very symbolically for the region, I would say, also reality, how slowly democracy is becoming a reality. But then there are quite a few words that are also related to the programs, I would say, that we are discussing in this series in terms of community and empowerment and engagement. But then also dialogue and involvement. But then there are also things that you recognize like challenges, even though you didn't really say which ones would be challenges. Okay, voice is also becoming much more present, and this is really in a way describing what I want to share with you as well. So democracy, change, voice, and activism. I will stop sharing this screen and start sharing this one. Did it work like this? Yeah. Because exactly the definitions that are also used in the programs, but the one of the, let's say, the simplest definitions of youth participation are around the idea that the youth participation gives the voice to young people and is about their activism and their civic actions. And this is the definitions that I will work with in the next half an hour, kind of sharing with you some of the trends and ideas that exist around youth participation, but also trends in how this is being, let's say, both implemented and practiced in the Western Balkan region, and then also some of the examples of what worked well and what could be inspiring example also for you to think when you are thinking about developing certain projects or partnerships to and using the programs to advance youth participation in the context in which you are working. This is to say that youth participation is actually there are many definitions, and as you saw, you created in 10 minutes, some definitions that also make sense, even though they were meant to be funny. But there was a big, let's say, a big research or study on youth participation, and one piece of that called Perspectives on Youth Participation I want to introduce to you here. It was done by Tommy Kilakowski, and he's I would say in the European youth field one of famous researchers exactly exploring this concept. And he worked on a little bit on values and benefits of youth participation. I'm quite sure that, you know, I don't need to convince you why is it important for young people to participate in society. But sometimes I feel also, as being a youth worker myself, that we miss the arguments to explain, you know, both the values and benefits of it, also to the throughout the projects, but also to all those that we are advocating towards. And in that sense, I think it's worthwhile, you know, reminding ourselves what are all the aspects there. So here are some that Tommy was also outlining in this paper that I mentioned. And all the links are also in this presentation, which will be shared with you, so you can. So if you would be interested then to learn more, you can then always explore more. So what is the idea? First, that youth participation is not just an outcome, it's not just a result, but it's also not just a process. It's both of that. So it's both the process of empowering young people, and it's also the outcome of really having their voice heard, or their being supported to actually take some action and make a difference. Youth participation is also about principles. It is about also policy, and it should be defined or enabled through, at the policy level. It is about practice of each of your organizations as much as practice of any other institution that you would like, or, you know, governmental structures that you would like to implement the youth participation as a principle. I have policy twice, I see now. So that's maybe also this Freudian mistake to say, you know, how important it is that policy is supporting practice. But then you had this word, you had involvement in your definitions. Engagement is, I would say, a synonym, but that's the whole idea, that youth participation is also not just how to call it, not just a prescribed mechanism thing, but really allowing for young people to engage in a ways in which they feel is the best way for them to raise voice or to take action. Connected with that exactly are those different perspectives which would help you as organizations to also figure out what is your particular focus, I would say, and what are you trying to achieve with youth participation. I need to say that as longer and longer I am into this field and kind of exploring youth participation, I'm discovering how much there is and how much actually, you know, when we say youth participation, we don't necessarily mean the same thing. And in this sense, I think this is really important to understand. You know, are we talking about rights of young people to participate? Are we talking about possibilities for young people to develop into, let's say, democratic citizens of democracies in which they would participate? So is it a developmental perspective? Are we talking about youth participating for the sake of the community and development of communities in a sense of this service perspective? So there are different ways how we can look at participation, and I think this is the first I would say even the first thing that you need to discuss in your organizations or with young people that you are working in, to figure out what kind of youth participation are you talking about. You know, is it the one on the level of voice, giving the young people voice, or supporting them to take action? And then going even deeper, you know, are we talking about all those different perspectives, and are you connecting that with the policies? Are you talking about inclusion, or, you know, what is the focus? Of course, it can be also all of that, but then it's really hard to cover all the aspects at the same time equally. So maybe you would need to prioritize with your projects, or at least have a kind of more, in a way, step by step perspective together. Let me check here if there are any comments or anything. This is the first bit of what I wanted to share with you about youth participation, kind of understanding where you are as organizations and what you want to focus on. And I will continue if there are no questions or immediate reactions to this. I will continue with looking now in the Western Balkan region specifically. Yeah. You agree? Let's see, click, click. Yeah, cool. Then for that, I will again ask you to do a little Menti together with me. This one will be a bit different. I have few sentences for you, and I'm asking you to kind of on a scale from 1 to 5, again, talking from your context, answer to those. We have 11 answers now, and not so optimistic picture from your experience with the youth participation, as it seems. It's very interesting, I would say, that the sentence that decision makers appreciate, promote, and support youth participation is actually the one where there are the most strongly agree answers. And you can see with this pink color where are the most answers around, you know. So there are around 2, but also around 4 and 5 we have some, while in the other 2 sentences there are almost none in strongly agreeing end of the spectrum. So it seems we don't really share the belief that young people have all opportunities and are fully supported to participate in democratic life. And we definitely don't agree that youth participation mechanisms from local to European level are well known to young people. I'll take it on from here to exactly share with you some of the regional perspectives that are covered through research, no? So they are really well documented, and this is something that I would recommend, because it seems that your organizations are also involved not necessarily only in provision of youth work, but maybe also in kind of advocacy for young people, or in particular youth participation. Then those researches could give you the arguments needed in a way. What you can see on this slide, that in youth policies, what works well is youth participation and social inclusion. And you were discussing this topic of social inclusion in previous editions. This is something that Ajsa Petkovic, again, a researcher well known also locally, regionally, and I would say at European level, has figured out by analyzing the youth policies in Western Balkans 6 at that time. So it was like three years ago, I would say, and analyzing the achievements and challenges in youth policies. And what she found out, and I'm sharing here with you, is that youth participation, and I'll focus on this one because this is the topic, is really mentioned in all of our Western Balkan 6 countries. It's really mentioned as one of the either strategic priorities or principles, or really priority in which the policy or the strategy or even the laws in some of the countries wants to take things forward. What she also discovered in terms of challenges, but I will not focus on those here, is that, you know, apart from policy level, then translating that into practice is something where we are a bit slower. But for youth organizations and organizations working with young people, I think it's really important to be aware that at the youth policy level, at the level of strategies that governments adopt, this is present, and this is something that, you know, is then potential for taking it forward to practice, no, and to reality. I was thinking what to focus on in regional perspectives, and in connection with these two programs that the series are focusing on, and I decided on 2 topics in terms of youth participation. One is on civic and political participation, and the other one on solidarity and volunteering as a also some argue that this is also a form of participation. When you volunteer, this is, and when you act in solidarity, that this is also youth participation in a way. So looking at civic and political participation, I also want to share with you some of the findings on the region, which unfortunately also will confirm what is your experience from your context and what you were sharing in the Menti just a few minutes ago. And this is from FES study, or Friedrich Herbert Stiftung study from 2018-19. Which was really covering Southeast Europe, and they also have reports for each of the countries specifically. So if you are interested to have more details and to have more arguments for, or to build projects on the data that already exist, this is, I would say, relevant research. This is what they discovered, basically, that young people are not interested in politics and have little knowledge of politics, that voting is the only kind of known mechanisms, and even beyond voting, that there is almost no experience with any kind of political or civic engagement. Also opposing to the trends of, let's say, at European level, where young people are more and more involved in these alternative forms of political engagement. In Southeast Europe, this seems to be rather uncommon. No? So we don't really have young people engaging even in alternative ways, according to this research. One aspect that is important, particularly if you are looking at inclusion from with your work, is that social inequality is also continuing and kind of is maintaining its power even through political and civic participation, meaning that those who are active are mainly from, let's say, more well-educated backgrounds or well-off families and contexts and etc. So the chances for those who are, let's say, less educated or are coming from or are struggling with poverty to actually participate are really strikingly less in the region. I'm checking if there are any comments or anything, but I'll move maybe to the next one, and then maybe we can see if there is anything to comment around this. Solidarity and volunteering is another aspect that I was trying to look in, and here I don't know if you would be surprised, but the majority of young people in the Southeast Europe region do not have experience of volunteering, and this experience of volunteering is declining. So this study is been done in waves over some years, and the last one in 2018-19 has shown that it's even less compared to the previous studies, which was few years before that. So this is, I would say, also worrying trend, no? And something that perhaps is something that your organizations would like to tackle, no? And explore why participation through volunteering is so unpopular in the region, in the context, and or why is it not happening, and perhaps trying to awake it a bit. I will just share this slide as well in terms of challenges to the youth participation in this context, is that there are quite a few processes that could be described as decoration, tokenism, and manipulation of young people, even though they are presented as youth participation. What young people struggle with is prescribed tools and mechanisms that they don't like or understand or want to use, that there is really strong institutionalization of participation. So you can only participate in more or less one way, and kind of this is the smart young person who is well educated and can talk on the same level with a, I don't know, politician or public servant on specific expert topic, and this is definitely shrinking the space for young people to participate, but also there is a trend of shrinking space in general for youth participation or for civil society in general by different trends in the region, also in the Europe, where participation is kind of limited by other forces, let's say, that we can call also undemocratic, but also often it is used as a security reasons are used as let's say one of the justifications for shrinking some of the spaces. For region, the biggest shrinking space actually happens with a lack of spaces for young people to actually discuss or have dialogue or have their voice and then decide what they would like to do. And this is something that is unfortunately true for decades now, that not many spaces apart from, for instance, islands of your organizations that are available on long-term and continuous basis for young people to engage. However, there are interesting trends in terms of preferences of young people, and this is, even though it's less in Southeast Europe than Europe-wide, this is the idea that young people are more thematically now engaged. So they want to focus on certain topic, for instance, environment, and this is what really drives them. However, for organizations, it's what creates a bit of a problem, or it could be a challenge to solve creatively, is that they expect immediate results from their engagement. And this is something more and more present, that you cannot expect young people anymore to participate into something looking at long-term perspective that this will bring some results, but they want immediate result, today. From my engagement, my time, my energy, I want visible result today. Also, they prefer non-institutionalized ways of participating, and as you have all I would guess observed, digital and digital and online. And the final part, in 2 minutes, I have few examples that I would like to share with you that might be inspiring for potential ideas that you would like to think for partnering up or just developing as projects in future. I will come back shortly to the presentation, just to share a few of those, I hope it will work, few of those inspiring examples. Some are also digital, so Snezhana will be happy. But it's more about the approach and I would say sustainability of some of those examples, because this is what I'm finding the most challenging in the region. From again my experience as youth worker is that project by project we are actually having great projects, but they are very short in nature, and then as soon as funding stops, somehow this kind of participation or results or outputs created are dying out in a way. So I would say it's really important to start thinking kind of either through connected series of projects, like you had this series of workshops, or more longer term in how to make some of the initiatives more sustainable. So I'll share a few examples. Maybe you heard of them, and there are links to each one. We don't have time to really go into details, so I'll just put them like this and just shortly give you one or two sentences. So Youth Lab model is something that UNICEF has promoted in the region, starting from Kosovo and then in Montenegro. And this is basically where they are supporting young people through mentoring and helping them to identify problem in the community that they want to solve, and then they get some also funding to resolve the problem that they identified in the first place. So that's one model. Youth Bank model is another one, which is an international initiative, but it was on and off introduced in the region by different actors, and actually you could have a, how do you call that, like a license, no, to be organizing this. And the idea here is that young people are creating a board in which they are making decisions which youth initiatives to support with funding. The next one is service learning model, which is a really interesting concept coming from South America. And actually it's now tested in Montenegro and Bosnia and Herzegovina, from what I know, maybe also in other places, where students at faculties are using their expertise in bringing it to the communities as part of their studies. So it's kind of learning through doing service in the community and connecting it to the educational attainment. Regional volunteering program. I'm not sure if you have heard about RICO, so Regional Youth Cooperation Office, and they are developing a new volunteering program in the region, where basically the idea is that young people would participate by volunteering not in their own community only, but going in the other communities across the region and kind of bringing that youth energy to the communities in different needs. No? And here is the digital one. So there was this project eYouth, which developed quite a few tools and tips for mobile and digital youth participation. And it's available online and has different ways in which young people are participating and could be participating through digital means. Snezana mentioned Instagram, and I'm happy as a dinosaur in youth in youth field to have found out also about this idea that was in Serbia, actually implemented by two young girls on Instagram. They created this collision with con, which I understand is a concept where they use it to actually fight against fake news during pandemic. So they were basically inviting and informing young people around what are the news, what are the information and what are the fake news. And then there is this old one, but always good examples in different places in across the region. But unfortunately, it's not still a trend. But there are examples where there are local youth councils or councillors appointed by either mayor or some local governance structure, where young people can assert some of the voices of young people in some of the local policies. This is really fast going through, so I'll stop here and thank you all for listening and participating and sharing. Also, I see in the chat that there have been some comments and some sharing. I'll stop here because the time has run out, but if there are any more comments, you have seen in the last slide, there is also my contact. Also the team has the contact, and the presentation with all the links in it will be shared with you. So please don't hesitate to reach out and contact me if any either further info or just you want to discuss some ideas around what you could do with all this now. Thank you.